Hello everyone. So today I was basically writing something, and I thought while I'm writing something, why not share a few things with you at the same time, or maybe just have a discussion about this important topic of whether you should have a separate instance of Jira or not. Now, this is something that you will definitely encounter. I mean, this question. Uh, if you are, especially if you are, let us say, responsible for maintaining Jira instance, maybe in a big company, maybe in cases where due to some reason, due to some important decisions, you have to basically split your Jira instance, or maybe the performance is not really good. So let us talk about this question and try to answer this, whether it is a good idea to have a separate instance of Jira, or maybe stay on the same instance. Now, I was basically, just writing about it, and I thought I'll probably, just organize my thoughts. So, if you are maybe thinking about this split or having a separate instance, and I'm sure there is a reason, and that reason could be, let us say, a split in your organization. Maybe in your organization, it's probably huge, and maybe you have decided, or not you, but your company owners have decided to have two different entities. It happens quite a lot. It happened with the companies where I worked with. It happened with my clients, where and because I'm a consultant, I'm an Atlassian consultant. We encounter these things regularly, where a big company is using Jira, and maybe other Atlassian tools, and they may want to, after the split, of course, after the split of legal entities, they want to have their own set of projects on a separate instance of Jira. Now, this is a valid case, and I think in this case you don't really have a choice. You have to split, because now you have two different companies, right? But there might be other reasons where having a separate instance of Jira is not always a good solution, or maybe you have to think twice. Now, the other reasons could be, let us say, you are running or maintaining this big, huge Jira instance, which is not really performing well. Maybe it is down regularly. People are always complaining about your Jira instance being very slow, especially during peak time. So this may be one reason where you might want to think that let us have a split. Let us have a separate instance of Jira, maybe for half of the projects, right? This might be a valid reason, but in this case, you have to probably try to fix the problem. If the performance is not great, then try to improve the performance. And with Jira Data Center, of course, you can always consider adding one more node, or maybe have one more load dedicated for, let us say, a specific type of request, maybe REST API based request. You can do a lot of things. Maybe look at your load balancer. So try to improve the performance, and of course not on the server, but also on the application. For example, maybe look at try to understand what is causing this problem. If you have a lot of scripts, maybe you have done too much automation. Maybe there are some incompatible or old apps that probably need updation. Maybe your Jira needs to be upgraded to the latest version. So try to improve the performance first in this case. Now, this is also interesting. You might want to set up a separate instance of Jira where, let us say, you don't really want your big main Jira instance to be highly customized, because I've seen some Jira instances where companies have been using Jira for maybe 10 years, and in their Jira instance they have done literally no customization. I mean, when I say no customization, I'm talking about literally no customization. They're using maybe few custom fields. They're using all the projects are using just few workflows and just some standard schemes. That is, of course, ideal. That may never really be the case for 99% of you guys, or maybe the instances that you manage, because people use Jira because they want to customize it, and I think you have to probably maintain a balance. But this could be a valid reason where maybe some teams want some customizations, and you don't really want to mess up your main big Jira instance, which is probably like a mission critical Jira instance. But in that case, maybe having a separate Jira instance might solve this problem. So whatever the case is, I mean, or whatever reason that you may have, I think you have to definitely consider a few things. And I actually wanted to talk about those things. Now, let us say you have some inclination, or you have, or maybe you're trying to evaluate whether or what will be the impact of this separate Jira instance. Can we do it? Technically, of course, you can do it, but what about the cost? Do you have an approved budget for this? And this can be a big thing, right? I mean, usually at this stage, you can probably cancel. Okay, no, we can't really afford to have a separate Jira instance because it is going beyond our annual allocated budget of whatever $200,000 pounds, whatever budget that you may have. Let us say you have a budget for the license and the infrastructure, right? What if, because when I say infrastructure, I mean, it is a big cost, right? You may need like few servers for the nodes. You may need a load balancer. You will definitely need a staging or dev environment. And you probably need to worry about a separate database server, both for production and, of course, your dev or staging. So there is a cost involved, right? Now, what about resources? Now, someone has to manage it, right? I mean, it's not like when you set up a Jira instance, it will run on its own. You need a team, you need skills, you need to pay those resources, right? So resources is again cost. So these two things, I think if you clear these two things, then, or maybe if you're trying to make a decision, then these top two things, and budget and resources, will probably give you enough idea that whether you can possibly go forward or not. Now, something similar to this, do you have like a structure in your team or organization? Let us say you do have resources, but what about support? Because you probably need like few people to set up something initially, but you may need to have a separate team, or maybe your existing team will be responsible for maintaining this new Jira instance, because it will definitely it depends on the capacity, right? And usually, based on my experience, Jira administrators or the team who is responsible for Jira instance, they are always busy. They're always struggling with so many people asking them, can you do this, can you do that? And you need people to maintain or run your Jira instance. Jira won't really run on its own. And support, of course, I just mentioned support. Support is again a big thing. If the reason, going back to the previous point, if one of the main factor for having a separate instance is basically to customize, like do some extreme customization, then of course you need like a dedicated team who will be supporting those customizations, because someone has to do customizations, right? Customizations, of course, you're not really going to give your end users admin rights. It will be your team or someone in your tools team who would be doing those customizations, and also at the same time supporting it. What about migration? I mean, migration can be a pain. It is pain, I mean, to be honest, because split is fine. Splitting your Jira instance is probably easy. Like you clone everything and then you delete what you don't need, right? It is simple. But when you have to selectively migrate some projects, then it is always a pain. I mean, you can do project import, but for project import, you definitely need to make sure that your target Jira instance has all the necessary configurations in place. Maybe you can use project configurator. Maybe you can write some scripts. It's a painful thing to do, and I've done so many migrations in my Atlassian consultation career, and it is always it is hardly a smooth process. I mean, in most of the cases, it is like a lot of effort. And if you do want to migrate, do you have skills again? Because it's a specialized thing that you are trying to do, right? Don't really expect your Jira administrators to know each and everything. Maybe they need to upskill themselves, or maybe you need to hire an external consultant to do it for you. Then again, it will be additional cost for doing all these things. And one thing that I think that I really wanted to focus on, and people usually ignore these things, is basically if you're talking about, let us say, a new Jira instance, right? Or maybe I think this is probably applicable for any customization. But if you are thinking of having a separate Jira instance where you may want to have your own specific, or maybe based on the requirements or based on the request from your specific teams that we want our own Jira instance, then people don't really use Jira to tell them how they work. I mean, it is usually the other way around. You basically want Jira to be configured the way you want to work. Of course, I'm not really saying customize the tool to basically cover each and every use case, but people actually expect Jira to be their project manager. Jira is not really a project management tool. You can do project management using Jira. You can actually use Jira's features to help you, assist you. But when you set up a new Jira instance, then apart from a separate URL for those teams, you need to also, tell them that yes, we have a new Jira instance. This is how we are going to work now. In this particular Jira instance, we are following these processes, and maybe you have done some automation. So you need someone who can educate those teams. You need like some buy-in from those teams, stakeholders. It could be a dedicated person in those teams, maybe your your Scrum Masters, your release managers, whatever. But someone has to basically own the usage of the tool, right? Or dictate how Jira, not dictate, but dictate is not really the right word, but in a way it is the right word, because you don't really want people to mess up your Jira instance again. So if you're trying to use Jira in a bit customized way, then you also have to make sure that people know how to do it. People are aware of those processes that you have mapped in the tool. So you have to also do some impact analysis about who would be doing it. I don't really think Jira administrators always have the reach to the end users. I mean, it would be great, but usually Jira administrators are focused more on the tool side, but not really on the people or processes side. That is where consultants come into picture. And in most of the companies where I've seen Jira admin team or tools team, they hardly do consultation. They basically focus, as I just mentioned, on, okay, this is the tool, we'll maintain it, that is it. But don't talk to us about how you want to use the tool. And it is actually a sad thing, because I think I recently made one video where I mentioned that if you want to upskill yourself, then don't limit yourself to do or to basically focus on creating workflows and schemes in Jira. Try to talk to people. I think it will give you a lot of ideas about how people are actually using these tools, what problems they're trying to solve using a tool like Jira. And also, can you afford a downtime? I mean, if you're thinking of doing a split, or if you're thinking of setting up a separate Jira instance, I think this can also be, one important factor, because maybe for while you're doing all these things, I mean, I'm sure you will probably not do these things like in the beginning. You will probably do everything on a separate dev staging environment. But let us say if you go for a separate Jira instance, then there will be some downtime, some outage for your new teams who would be then using a different tool. So you have to, of course, tell them that this weekend we'll be moving from Monday, we'll be using this Jira instance, and this is the URL. And not just a downtime, but also the impact of change in URL. I think it can be huge, because if I'm a developer, I don't really care about these things. I just want my issues. I just want my stories. And it is okay for me to go to a different Jira instance. I have a new link, but this switch is again not really smooth. We have to basically communicate again and again to those end users that from Monday onwards, this is the URL. If you have done some automation integration, maybe you're using some, I don't know, plugin, or maybe if you're doing some code commits, then make sure you use the new URL, you use the right issue key, and this has to be very clear. And it can be a big pain, to be honest. I mean, people actually make a switch, and then it takes like few months for everyone to settle down and be aware of this new Jira instance. So I think switching or having a new Jira instance can make sense in some cases, but in most of the cases it is usually not really going to be an easy decision. So you have to basically consider these things. But also at the same time, I would say that if, let us say, a bad performance of your Jira instance is maybe causing a lot of trouble, going back to the same point where maybe there is a request from, or like a lot of push from your teams that we want our own Jira instance so that we can customize it, and maybe they are right. Maybe Jira is not letting them work the way they want to work. So maybe if they are not really able to deliver on time, maybe if they are complaining about Jira being down for 1 hour, maybe they have done some calculation that if Jira is down for, let us say, 1 hour, then our teams lose maybe, I don't know, millions of pounds. I'm not joking. It can happen. I mean, imagine 1,000 people not being able to do their work for 1 hour in a big company. It is a lot of money, and I've seen this a lot where I know we talk about standardizing Jira and not having like a lot of automations and integrations, but again, it has to be a balance. But I've seen this a lot where teams fall back to Excel, and they use Excel because Excel is Excel. Excel is not Jira, and it is easy to use. But Excel is not really for collaboration, but people use Excel for making a plan to track something, to have their test cases, because it is Excel, right? You just bulk update hundreds of rows and you have your own formulas. But if Jira can be customized slightly to solve your problems and maybe to make things a bit more easy, then that could be a valid reason. And again, if you're falling back to Excel, if teams are falling back to Excel, then it is a loss of time and productivity in the long run. And again, maybe in the existing Jira instance, you don't really have all the reports that you need because Jira is not really customized. Maybe you need some calculated fields. Maybe you need some plugins like maybe EasyBI. I don't know. It depends. And I think I mentioned about not being able to deliver on time, because it can happen if Jira is not really configured the way you want it to work. Then maybe your teams are spending a bit too much time on Jira, and maybe they fall back to Excel. So if you look at your teams and they're constantly not being able to deliver on time, then maybe there is something wrong with the tool also. So tool has to be customized and tweaked so that teams can get the most out of it. And maybe your company's reputation is impacted if you're not really delivering on time. And also I always say that talk to your teams, talk to your developers, talk to your project managers, talk to your scrum masters, and there should be some channel. I know usually Jira administrators are like always hidden. There's like a wall in between, but there should be like a constant or some forum where they can discuss with teams. Are they happy about the tool? You should hear a lot of complaints. Those complaints may not be valid, but there should be a medium or a forum where people can openly complain about things so that you can then evaluate whether those complaints are valid or not really valid. And if you think in your tool it is a bit difficult to onboard a new role, let us say there's a new project manager. How easy is it for your new project manager or scrum master to open Jira and feel comfortable about the backlog or about what has been happening in the past few months or past few years? So if your tool is not really neatly configured, or if people are not really following the right set of processes, or their usage is not really good, then it would be very difficult to onboard a new person. And at the same time, if I think everyone is complaining about the tool, then there there might be something wrong with the tool. I mean, you have to accept it. I've seen cases where, and this is actually for Jira administrators, or basically the teams who basically own Jira. They sometimes don't really want to listen, because they think, okay, Jira is up and running, Jira is fine, and it has all the features. But if teams are complaining, then it is something wrong with the teams. I think that is probably also wrong, because you should, if you get complaints, I just mentioned that you should make it easy for your teams to complain about usage of the tool or tool itself. But if they're always complaining, if their mode is always complaining mode, then there is something wrong. And in that case, maybe their request for a separate Jira instance is valid. So in this video, I think I just wanted to. I started with this topic, this question: do we need a separate Jira instance, or maybe scenarios or cases where having a separate Jira instance is probably just an excuse, or maybe it is not really valid. So I just wanted to touch on this particular topic, this question, and hopefully I've given you some ideas. I've given you something to think about, and these points that I just covered, maybe it will help you. Maybe it will help you to make a decision and decide wisely whether you should have a separate Jira instance or not. All right. Yeah, long video, 21 minutes, and sometimes I don't really mind talking about 20 minutes or 30 minutes, because I think it's okay. Sometimes you need a bit more time than 10 minutes to convey your thoughts and message. All right, that is all I wanted to talk about today. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new. Thank you very much. Bye bye.